me pin you guys. Don't let anybody in, please. All right, we should be good to go.
And
You ready, Eugene?
boom, here we go.
Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Hey, Ms. Graham, I looked at your magazine briefly yesterday. I'll look more closely and over the weekend. Thank you for sending me that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you.
Indeed. So happy to do so.
Good to see everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, my Paris trip was not that at all. But I'm glad to be back. And before I start this welcome, one of our Facebook family members wanted me to tell you that his schedule has changed. This is our brother Tyrone Cozy, and his schedule has changed for the good, but that prohibits him from being here at this time. But he wanted me to make sure to let you know that he loves you all and that he'll be, tuning into the recordings whenever he can. And excuse me. So again, welcome back to another episode of Race Talk Revolution with Lane and Eugene. Race Talk Revolution is where your voice matters. Welcome to all of you who are new today to the program. Not only do we ask and hope and invite you to come back, we also invite you to invite others, to join us. So today our topic is keeping it real, why we need Black-owned media. Our speaker today is Mr. A.J. Woodson. Mr. Woodson is editor-in-chief and co-owner of Black Westchester magazine, and he is an on-air personality of People Before Politics Radio, which airs Sundays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Now, as always, during our conversation today, we ask that you please remain muted. When we get to the Q&A section, we will instruct you on how to raise your hand. During that time, we will invite you to activate your camera. We like to see your face when you're speaking, and express your questions and comments to our speakers at that time. Until the Q&A section, we ask that you please give the guests your full attention and limit your use of the chat as much as possible. We also want to remind you that Race Talk Revolution is a loving, inclusive platform designed to strip away the false beliefs that keep us separated as a species, to uncover the not so hidden truth that we all want the same things as human beings, and to heal the wounds created by systemic racism. Race Talk Revolution is a safe and brave space for people of all backgrounds to share ideas and opinions and explore the nuances of systemic racism, while together we grow our capacity for effective anti-racist activism. The Race Talk Revolution community is committed to practicing radically inclusive love. Radically inclusive love. What does this mean? This means that even if you do not understand or agree with what's being shared, we ask that you listen with respect, listen with appreciation and empathy. You see, it is our commitment that every person be encouraged, heard, and appreciated, because here on Race Talk Revolution with Lane and Eugene, every voice matters. Now here is my beautiful co-host, the Reverend Lane Cobb.
All right, everybody. Good day, and welcome. I have the privilege of introducing our speaker for the day. Mr. A.J. Woodson is the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester and co-owner of Urban Soul Media Group. A.J. is a father, author, writer, rapper, radio personality, journalism fellow, hip-hop historian, and freelance journalist whose byline has appeared in several print publications and online sites, including The Source, Vibe, The Village Voice, Upscale, sonicnet.com, launch.com, Rolling Out Newspaper, Spiritual Minded Magazine, and several others. AJ is an activist and organizer committed to empowering people of color to advocate for themselves and to speak truth to power to bring about political, social, and economic change. A little bit about Black Westchester magazine. BlackWestchester.com is a magazine for people of color for Westchester and the tri-state area of New York at every economic level. BlackWestchester.com is committed to be a platform to profile life, culture, economics, politics, sports, and entertainment, and those who are representing vision in these marketplaces who can both encourage and provide role models to other men and women. Black Westchester, through its magazine, radio show, and editorial content, is a vessel of community information throughout Westchester and the New York tri-state area. Their mission is to promote the concept of community through media. So welcome to Race Talk, Mr. Woodson. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am honored and humbled. A little bit, well, you introduced me. Thank you for that great introduction. Most people ask how we got started, so I guess I can start there if you don't mind.
You can. Well, here's what I'd like to do. What if I can, you know what? Yeah, no, go ahead and do that. And then at some point, I want to give a little bit of history about Black press, because there are some people who may not know that there is a rich history of Black press in the United States. So absolutely, because I want to find out, how did you get started? But really, how did you make the journey from rapper to owner and editor-in-chief of a newspaper?
Well, one, I'm working on a book called Black Westchester, The Origin Story, which will be out sometime in June. And I tell a lot of that story, not only how we got started, but the things that I did that led up to this. I was a rapper, and then I got involved in writing professionally. I've always been a writer. Someone's infinite wisdom, it was their idea to have a rapper review other rappers' CDs. So I started out literally like that. And then I was doing fanzines like Word Up and Black Beat and stuff like that. Then something happened. I think Calvin Butts crushed some CDs and Russell Simmons was ripping off artists. And I started writing these big editorials, campaigning for the rights of artists, you know, the need of wanting a union. Like artists don't have a union to back them up, you know, and they don't get insurance and stuff from the record companies because they're like independent contractors. So I did a series of articles like that, and people was like, oh, he can really write. So I started writing for several publications. The first newspaper I wrote for was actually the Daily Challenge. It was a daily paper in Brooklyn. I covered the Reverend Al Sharpton, Alton Maddox, and C. Vernon Mason defamation trial. The ADA, Stephen, I forget his last name, starts with a P, and Poughkeepsie couldn't go further with this, you know, hanging over his head. He was accused of being one of the rapists and kidnappers of Tawana Burley. So he brought a defamation trial against the three of them. And I was up there for like 6 months every day covering that trial for the Daily Challenge. As a writer, as a freelance writer, I just basically, you know, it's either feast or famine. Either you have a lot of assignments and you have a lot of checks coming in, or you're going to the mailbox every day like, where's my check? You know, so I was always looking for someone else to write for. So I didn't even get into it to do that. I just did it, you know, because it was an assignment and I learned a lot. I was exposed to a lot of systematic racism that I don't know if I realized on that level existed. They did not want us up there. They used to do stuff like try to pull our bus over on the way back to the city every day. And it just do little things like arrest us for jaywalking and all the things that happened up there. It opened my eyes. So basically, as far as Black Westchester is concerned, so I lived in Atlanta for about 10 years. In 2014, my mother is diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I come home to take care of her. That's the only reason I came home. While I'm taking care of her, my partner Damon Jones, who I had a music company back in the day with, was starting to get more active and speaking up against police brutality and all of those things, and I call him a walking press conference. He literally has a podium in his trunk, like he can just pull out, fold up, and literally have a press conference. But he was getting tired of the News 12s and the other organizations showing small clips of his press conferences. And sometimes you miss the purpose or the theme of the press conference. You know, they show a clip and tell you what it was about, but you know, sometimes missing the message. So I'm there every day, taking care of my mother in the hospital, and he knew I needed a break, and he asked me to come out and videotape this particular press conference. It was 4 Black parole officers. They went up to Ramapo. I think that's in Suffern, upstate. To get an escaped parolee. He wasn't there. As they were leaving the city, they were pulled over by the local police. They were held at gunpoint for 45 minutes, told to lay on the ground. They had their badges on their neck, on chains around their neck. They had bulletproof vests that said NYS, New York State Parole, in big letters. They were in a government vehicle, and they were held like they were terrorists or bank robbers. Of course, none of the cops were ever disciplined or anything. So this press conference was announcing their lawsuit, and Damon was standing with them while he could videotape it. So he sends me the video afterwards on YouTube, and I always had a blog all my life to just express stuff. And I basically wrote an article: if it's not safe for them, what chances does the average brother like me have in the street? That ended up basically being the birth of Black Westchester. Literally, he gave me the idea. We came up with the name Black Westchester Magazine, with the idea of an African-American news magazine. You have white magazines, Time, Life, Newsweek, but you don't have one that speaks to Black people. I've been doing entertainment stuff all my life. We have enough entertainment publications. I didn't feel like that was needed. I wanted to do this. So we came together and did this. I designed the website on my mother's bedside. She saw the first few articles and stuff. She ends up passing July 15th. And, 8 years later, here we are. We've done a lot of good work. We've got some wrongfully incarcerated people out of jail. We got some officers who violated their policies and procedures and training, and we got them in jail because of our stories. We got several other officers suspended or fired. We've got some elected officials in office, and some of them didn't act right. We helped them get back out of office. We become somewhat of the voice of the people, even though I tell people that's not why I got into this. It's cool to be the voice of the people, but I want to encourage people to have their own voice. And hopefully we will encourage the next generation of truth speakers. So that basically sums up kind of the origin story. I mean, I talk about it way more in detail in the book that's coming out. But that's our story. And, I try to stand on the shoulders. You talk about the importance of the Black press. I try to stand on the shoulders. And in 1927, the first African-American newspaper was the Freedom Journal. Started by John Rushworm and Samuel Cornish. Then you had a lot of other papers popping up. And in Westchester, we had the Westchester County Press that's going on 90 plus years. And you had another paper called the Westchester Observer that was started by Ben Anderson. I think it ran from like the late 40s, 48 to maybe 1971. And they were more of the activists, more of the advocates, more than the Westchester County Press, who covered more events and positive news. And we need that, don't get me wrong. But the Westchester Observer saw they needed that. That's going to hold the elected officials' feet to the fire and be more of the advocate for our need. We combine both of them. We do cover the positive events. We show the positive. We highlight our unsung heroes in our community that do great work, who you never hear about. They don't get any publicity. We wanted to change the narrative. In 2014, there was a really big positive event going on in Mount Vernon. So Damon Jones calls News 12, I'll say, they called News 12 and told them about this event. And he was told they did not have a news van to send. He hung up, called back, spoke to the same person and said, I want to report a shooting on the corner of, before he could finish, it was like, where? We got a van coming right away. Talk to the same exact person. They didn't even realize they were talking to the same person. And we realized then, you know, and media defense, you know, if it leads, it bleeds. That's what gets them the views. That's what gets them the advertisers. That's what keeps their numbers going and keeps people watching their stuff. But, you know, it was time for someone serious to tell for our story to be told by us. So that's why we started this. So 187 years after the Freedom Journal was started in 1827, Damon Jones and I started blackwestchester.com. 3 years later, with the calling of the people, we were print and we were digital, and we started the actual monthly newspaper because the people called for it in 2017.
Well, I want to interrupt you for a minute. Thank you for that history. And I do encourage people to look. There is something very easy on YouTube to look up. I sent it out in the resources, the history of Black news, I think it's called. It may be the history of Black media, but it's only 27 minutes. It's really very good thing to watch on YouTube. Just to give that a brief history of Black media. Your tagline is news with a Black point of view.
Yes.
So what does that mean to you to have that image? And what does that mean from the perspective of journalism in your choice of what you cover and how you cover it? Is that clear?
Absolutely. All too often, every other group has their local community or free and independent press that speaks to them. The Irish Times, the Italian whatever, the you know, every other group has that. So when you hear national news, that paper articulates to that group of people how this affects them. All too often, Black people don't always have that. And in Westchester, there was a void. So we cover the issues that a lot of people cover, but we cover it with the Black point of view. A lot of times we are, like if a Black person gets shot by the police, the first thing they do is criminalize the person. We humanize the person. We say their name. We explain that that's a person, regardless of, even if what they did, what they were accused of, they deserved to be arrested and tried and have a day in court. They didn't deserve to be killed right there on the spot. You know what I mean? Like the police are playing judge and jury. So, but the mainstream media doesn't show that. They'll dig up, he smoked marijuana in high school and got suspended, you know, or, you know, he went joyriding with his friends and he was in the backseat and got arrested. Like they'll quickly try to criminalize the person. And we wanted to help change that narrative of the portrayal of Black people in the media. So we tell the stories on how it concerns us, how it affects our community, explaining our rights, encouraging our people to vote and to go to their city council meetings and to complain about certain things that they have rights to complain about that they don't know that they have. So, you know, we try to tackle everything that affects the Black and sometimes the brown community. But, you know, being a small community publication, we can't cover everything, but we try to be as present as possible.
So I want to ask one more question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Eugene and allow him to ask some questions. But in one of your articles that you sent me, you write about how important it is that you maintain your authenticity around your messaging. Some folks suggest that you would gain wider distribution if you drop the word Black from your title. So what do you say to them? And why is being, in your words, true to your essence so important?
Yes, one of the first things, one of our guests that we had on that come on our show a lot was the legendary talk show radio show host Bob Law. And Bob Law, one of the things he said, he was like, never let them kill your identity. The first thing they do to us is try to remove our identity. So by taking the word Black out, I would be able to reach a larger audience. But LoHud.com did a full page article on us, and radio.
Let me just stop you. LoHud.com. What's
Journal
that
News.
stand for? Okay, so it's
Lower
Lower
Hudson.
Hudson
Yeah,
Valley, right?
Yeah, it's the
Westchester
website
County.
for-
Just want to know because people are
I'm sorry.
not from
It's
here.
the website for the Journal News, which is our local USA News distributor. Like, they're owned by USA Today. I'm sorry, and it's our local news, the Journal News. Their website is LoHud, LOHUD.com, which stands for Lower Hudson Valley. Morning talk show, longtime morning talk show host Bob Marone. He was on VOX and FAS and has his Westchester Radio Westchester now. He made a comment about us, and he said one of the most appealing things to us. He said we could have gone harder on some elected officials, and some people accuse us of going too hard on others, but we never moved to the mainstream by staying to our essence. We actually moved some of the mainstream to us. From my music days and rap, a lot of people, they have this thing called selling out or going pop. You have a Black audience, there's your community audience that follows you, but at some point you're told to get more, more fans, sell more records, do more shows. If you don't talk about these controversial issues and you do more, pop love songs or whatever, you'll get more white viewers and white buyers and stuff like that. Good example, Mariah Carey. When she first came out, the only group of people who accepted her was the Black community. She then went pop. She started off thanking the Soul Train Awards and thanking the Black community, and then she went pop and said she's not Black. And after that pop audience was through with her, she had to come back with her tail between her legs, trying to reappeal back to that core Black audience that got her there. You know what I'm saying? So that's we never tried to go pop or sell out. We have a lot of white readers and listeners, but because they understand the importance of what we do as a Black press, not because we purposely write or do things to attract them. You know what I mean? So people constantly say, oh, Black Westchester, that's racist. What if I started a white Westchester? Well, you don't have to, because all mainstream media is white. So you really don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to do that. So I did a series of articles a while back for a magazine called Freedom Rag, if you don't mind. And I interviewed 4 individuals, controversial individuals as they put it, who had said something and one sentence was taken out, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries was one, Khalid Muhammad, who was the head of the mosque, number 7 at the time. He ended up losing his position because of a comment he made actually 30 years to the week that Malcolm also lost that same position for a comment he made. So anyway, they took that one sentence like they did with Malcolm, and they, full page ads and all that, and he got removed. I then, Dr. Ben was the other one, and I can't remember who the 4th one was, but I and this is in the early 90s. In my mind was I wanted to talk to all of them, and I wanted to give them a forum to actually say what they say, to explain the whole thing, because you can take a sentence out of anybody. I can talk to all of y'all and take a sentence out of what you said, and I can paint you any way I want to paint you. I mean, you have that ability as a writer. I don't do that, but you can, and that's what they were doing. So I let all of them talk. I ended up being becoming friends with Khalid Muhammad after he found me later. I had a clothing store in Mart 125 called Conscious Brothers Clothing, across the street from the Apollo, and he would always come through, remembering that I had interviewed him, and we would always build. He was doing the Million Youth March. He had me stand right next to him in his press conference, announcing it, wearing my Conscious Brother Clothing hoodie, so it would be seen on the media. Like, I got to know that brother very well. So, again, a lot of what we do in Black Westchester, I say that because I talk about that in the book, about how that prepared me for what I'm doing now, even if I didn't know it back then. Getting our narrative out, getting the facts out. humanizing our victims that they try to criminalize, and just getting the story out from the Black point of view, which is a point of view that is not necessarily told often. You can be only being pro-Black is a crime in this country. You can be pro anything else and nobody complains, but you're pro-Black, you have to be anti-Semitic, you have to be anti-police, you have to be anti-something. You're accused of being anti-something for being pro-Black. And I'm not anti-police, I'm anti-bad police. I don't care what color they are. If you're in our community and you're violating your rights, your policy, procedures, and training, I have a problem with you. I don't care if you're Black. I have more of a problem with the Black ones because they should know better. Same thing with the Black elected officials. I have more of a problem because you should know better. So, it's we hold everybody's feet to the fire equally.
Brother AJ, thank you so much for being here and all of this that you're laying down here. And for those of you who don't know some of the names that he mentioned, I mean, these are heavyweight people in the Black community. Dr. Jeffries, Dr. Ben, and of course the brother Khalid Mohammed. So for me to hear you talk about your engagement with them, thank you so very much for the work that you do. And so I want to ask you this question. In one of your articles, you write about, nope, that's not the one. You have said as a writer, you have to understand why you are doing what you do. Now, I can see that in the history of Black news media, where Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass, just to name two significant pioneers in the Black journalism, with the courage and conviction they brought to their writing and championing issues relevant to Black community and speaking out against lynching, just as an example. So let me ask you, what does that look like in present day journalism?
I'm glad you said that. So we started June 2014. Some 6 to 8 months later, in 2015, Freddie Gray is killed in Baltimore. We've already established a relationship with a lot of the activists that traveled to all of these things, and several of them were going down. They took pictures and everything from the stage, and they had a big protest. 10,000 people peacefully protested, but 100 or so people acted up and 34 people got arrested. Every media outlet, the New York Times, everybody called out the dozens that got arrested, not the 10,000 who peacefully protested. I had one of those moments where I just got my pen and started writing, and I called out all the mainstream media. This is actually my first article that actually went viral. 1.7 million people read it in the first 36 hours. I've never been able to duplicate that. It just happened. The right people retweeted it because it was saying finally somebody in the media is calling out the media. What I warned them of, what they were doing was lighting the match to burn down the city of Baltimore. And later, actually a day or two later, the city of Baltimore actually is on fire. What does that look like with us? So a week or so after George Floyd dies, there is national protests everywhere, even here in Westchester. In New Rochelle, a young man named Kamal Flowers is killed by the police. Everybody, you had 1,000 people in the streets of New Rochelle protesting George Floyd days before. I knew, and I had to be aware that I had the power to be the match to burn down the city of New Rochelle if I was reckless in my words, if I was reckless in the way I reported it. So I did report the facts, and I did call the police to task. And let me just say, the New Rochelle Police Department before that has never given me any information before I ever asked for it. That incident happened at midnight. The New Rochelle Police Department sent me a press release at 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to get their narrative out. They had never reached out to me before that. That made me, that first put me on alert. Then their story didn't add up. But I had to be responsible in the way I told it.
Right.
Because the atmosphere was already charged because of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. And now something happened here on our ground, here in our county, and people were upset. So while reporting it, I had to do it responsibly, and I had to, calm some people down, including the brother of the victim, who I didn't know at that time, who I've got to know very well afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's just one example on, I think that I don't know if that answers the question totally, but that's.
No, that's good. That's great. That's great. Whew. So I want to go through this real fast. Black adults stand out for their trust in local news organizations, right? So a Pew Research study says that 1 in 3 Black adults say they have a lot of trust in the information they get from local news or organizations, higher than the share of whites who say the same, 27%. When it comes to national news or organization, Blacks, 23%, are about as likely as whites, 20%, and Hispanics, 24%, to express a lot of trust. So what does that say to the responsibility of Black media outlets in terms of being accurate and trustworthy? Because this is a very important position, that is in your hands.
My mother used to say, and it's been a very popular saying in the movie Spider-Man, with much responsibility comes, with power comes much responsibility. You have to understand that. And I was telling y'all off air before we got started, so I have to be 10 times more accurate than News 12, ABC, NBC, or any of them. They could write a story and actually get some of the details wrong, and will be believed and respected, or they'll accept, our people will accept what they said. I have to go 10 steps further. I have to have the audio of the person saying it. I have to have a video of the person doing it. I actually have to have the documents, where they can read through it themselves. And even then, sometimes, people question my credibility. It's funny. I always say I got into this to unplug our people from the matrix, and those very people are the ones that usually attack me.
Wow.
Listening to the rhetoric of an elected official who's saying whatever and doesn't care about them, and they tend to believe that elected official that I'm just attacking them because I don't like them, or because I didn't get a job, or whatever narrative they have to put. So I had to fight very hard for our credibility. I had to fight, especially during the Richard Thomas administration in Mount Vernon. I am very open that Damon, myself, Dr. Bob, I actually met Dr. Bob, who's on my show. I actually met him in the Richard Thomas campaign. Richard Thomas paid me to do his social media. So I covered a lot of that and voted for him. And, I actually believed in him from the things he was saying. Until I found out certain things about him after he got in, and then he didn't stay to his word. And we were his biggest critics at that time. I say that to say, Ernie Davis was the mayor before that, and I held his feet to the fire. So how much more should I hold the feet to the fire of a person that I advocated for, that I voted, that I supported? I should hold his feet to the fire even more. You know what I'm saying? But Richard Thomas and them and the people and their people behind it were, I had a white guy that was one of his biggest sponsors or advisors, he calls him, Joseph Spezio, who some might know the name and might not know the name. He would walk around like Trump, calling us fake news and all this other stuff, but could never prove anything we were saying was not true. And I think the testimony is he sues everyone. And to this day, Black Westchester has never been sued. So because we put it out there, if I'm lying, sue me. And we've never been sued. So, but the point is, we had to fight for our credibility was constantly under attack by the people we criticized and some of the people we were giving the news to. They just didn't see it. I don't know why sometimes we don't take it as real from ourselves as we would a white. So you know what I had to do a few times? I actually gave a scoop to News 12 in Low HUD so they could break it first. And then I wrote the bigger story behind the scenes about it. But that way I knew it would be taken serious because it was such a big issue that I needed to get everybody's attention. And I've had to do stuff like that.
So, what I hear you saying as well is that it's not just your responsibility to report what's happening. It's your responsibility to actually go that step further and be very visible, to actually look for, to advocate for, to lift up, and also to tear down if that's appropriate in terms of, your commitment for empowering and supporting the Black community. Am I hearing you correctly?
And absolutely. And there's a point that I want to make to that. Like, you read my bio. I've written for a lot of national, big entertainment publications. I could have started another Black entertainment publication and been talking about reality TV and all the ratchetness going on in TV and the whole Chris Rock and Will Smith thing. And I could sell it on the newsstands and people would buy it. But I chose to do this, and this is a labor of love. This may be something I may never get rich off of. But I feel that there's a responsibility. My mother, the reason I tell the story about my mother was a big advocate for things. She was, in her last days, she lived in a senior building. She had to become a big advocate for senior rights, helping all the seniors fight. She was helping people, educate them when they were in foreclosure and losing their houses with the Westchester Residential Organization, whatever, RSO, whatever they stand for. She did a lot of that. I didn't do those things. My mother's name was Patricia Henderson. I didn't do those things, but I still felt with her passing, she passed me a baton. This is what I do. I write, I do this, I talk, I advocate. So I do it my way. But I feel like it's a responsibility. And you're a reverend. My Biblical Institute teacher in Atlanta told me that this is my ministry.
Right.
And I was like, why would you say that? Said, you do the things that Jesus wants you to do. We're supposed to advocate. We're supposed to be the voice of the voiceless, hope for the hopeless. We're supposed to feed the hungry. He said, you do all these things in your stories and in what you do. This is your ministry. And everything that you went through, this is what God was preparing you for. So it's the mentor of mine, Henri Ward, Short Temple, Amy Zion Church in Smyrna, Georgia. My pastor thought it was smart. In his wisdom, he wanted us to develop our own theology. So he started a biblical institute on the second floor of the church. It wasn't accredited or nothing, but if we wanted to go to the classes that you would take in seminary class, like Journey Through Christian Theology and all of those classes, I'm taking all those classes and I passed them, and it helps broaden my perspective on everything. So, I don't know if I answered your question or I got far off of what you asked me.
That's okay. You're passionate, you're passionate, but that's a good lesson for everyone to understand, right? To one of our taglines is your voice matters, right?
Yes.
And yes, tapping into, your divine potential and, your purpose is essential for making sure that you have done the work that you came to do, while you yet live. And you're definitely doing that.
Just real fast, one of the definitions of the word minister is one who sees to the needs of others.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are all that. I mean,
exactly. Go ahead, Lane. We are all that.
No, yeah, we are all ministers in our own right. And when we recognize that and then just walk that path, that's one of the things that brought, brings us together here. Right.
The book I have is Black Westchester, the origin story. But as I told you, the subtitle is How My Faith Was Very Instrumental in This Great Experiment.
Yes.
And then I explain what that means, why I keep calling it the Great Experiment. I explain all that,
So can I ask you a question? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Eugene, you can go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you're going there as well. Let's talk about the radio show. Is that where you were going, Lane?
Sure. Let's go there.
Now, I know that you are focused on the New York tri-state area, but you have had some conversations that go beyond this immediate area, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So let me just finish.
I'll wait for you to finish the question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when does People Before Politics air? And what is your goal for those broadcasts? And how can folks participate?
Okay, so the show used to be, before we started Black Westchester, Damon Jones Damon K. Jones had a blog talk radio show with that same name, People Before Politics, where everybody would call in. When we started Black Westchester, Damon was invited to a radio show at the same studio, internet studio based in Yonkers. And we liked it, and we found out how much it would cost for us to get a show there. And we wanted to do Sunday because usually Sunday, a lot of our traditional Black talk shows were on Sundays. But we didn't want to miss the church crowd, so we did it later in the evening instead of actually in the morning. It used to air on the it was an internet-based show, but through COVID, the studio shut down. So we started doing, like you're doing, streaming live straight to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I'm doing it out of my home right here where I'm doing it right now. I do the show right here instead of going to a studio. Where we covered national issues. So our digital footprint started expanding way beyond Westchester. In 2014, 2 months after we started, 2014, 1 month after Eric Garner's dead, and in July, we started in June, and in August, Mike Brown's dead, and Ferguson. And someone in Ferguson, who identified herself as Sharon from Ferguson when she called, I guess she was Googling some stuff and read some of the articles that I had wrote about Ferguson. And then she found out we had a radio show, so she was listening to the show. So when we were talking about how sometimes the mainstream media, twist things around and stuff like that. And there was a report that I had read where a Black pastor was saying they were peacefully protesting and the cops were throwing like tear gas or doing things that ignite the crowd. And the crowd was peaceful to that point, and the crowd ended up responding by throwing bottles at the cops. The mainstream media talks about how the rioters were just violently attacking the police, and that's why the police had to do the things they were doing. She saw the article I wrote, for whatever reason she found it online, and she called in to give us a street eye view of what was really going on and confirmed all those things. So somebody from Ferguson was calling into our show that Sunday to a couple of weeks to tell us what was really going on. That was one of the biggest things. That was like, I've never been to Ferguson, and what I'm saying, somebody from Ferguson found out about us and was telling us what was going on. So we, doing this online, I'm able to talk to people in various places. They don't have to be in my radio show. They don't have to be in the studio. I can talk to them in California and Chicago and Atlanta and wherever else. I did a lot with the Stacey Abrams when she ran for governor. I went down there to see my dad, and I ended up doing a lot about how the guy she was running against was actually the head of the Board of Elections, and he was the referee in his own fight. You know what I mean? Like, he was the fighter and he was the referee making the rules. And a lot of people didn't know that down there. So I'm engaging them in Atlanta, the importance of them needing to come out and get her over 50%, or it was going to be a run on. And I'm explaining that to them from up here because a lot of them didn't know. So, we cover the Black community as a whole. Eric Adams, when he won, he was in Ghana, and he was honored in Ghana. Some of my people were there. They took the pictures and the whole thing about him being honored in Ghana. So, we cover stories, wherever we can,
And let me just tell people, Eric Adams is the mayor of New York City.
New York City, I'm sorry. Yes, the current New York City mayor, the first vegan mayor of the city. And the second Black mayor after David Dinkins.
Good. All righty.
So Eugene, you ready to Q&A it?
Let's do this. Yeah. I've been sitting on this point that wants to be made. I'm like, no, because it's taking it away from, but it's not really. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Brother, you were speaking about how did that go? Where some you had mentioned it, let me put it this way, that you gave your story to the white media first, so that they can get it out because it was that important, and then you came behind, and then really shined the light because of the way that systemic racism runs. And it's interesting in that, generally speaking, and this is really generally, generalizing it, that we have been, as Black people, miseducated to believe more in what's being and more in what the white media or the white person says more than what we say. And even though what we're saying is the truth, which is why, you have to have your ducks in the row, making sure that your T's are crossed and and all of that, and it's because of, and I want people to really understand this coming from the Black point of view, that, in order for, we have to show up so much more just because of the systematic racism makes it so that we don't trust each other, and it's an interesting thing. And so that's just one of the things that just wanted to come, out right now, so that we can become clear on how deeply this stuff goes. Yeah. Yeah.
And, AJ was saying before, I don't know what the name of that is. I just put in the chat. It's internalized racial oppression, right? Internalized racial inferiority.
Yeah.
From those messages, those internalized messages. And this is one of the reasons why it is so important to have Black voices elevated, right? To have voices elevated so that they can speak to the Black perspective, so that they can empower us, so they can model for us that our voices have value and invite us to come together and speak to each other and enfold each other with love and appreciation and understanding, so that we are not continuing to be at the whim of systemic racism. So thank you. Thanks for bringing that out, Eugene, and thank you for being that voice, AJ.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting to the Q&A section, Q&A. So in this section, if you have a question and or comment, how you raise your hand is to take your cursor to the lower right-hand corner, where all the icons are, click on reactions, and you'll see the bar that says raise hand. If you don't find it there, then go to participants on that lower line where all the icons are. Go to participants, click on that, find your name, click on the three dots to the right of that, and you should find the ability to raise your hand there. Speaking of questions and comments, let's keep them down to under 2 minutes if possible. I know it's possible. Just keep them under, 2 minutes, so we have time enough for people to ask their questions, and also, more importantly, time enough for Mr. Woodson to answer the questions. So right now we have Cody.
Yeah, I wanted to say first, thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here with us. I love the idea that you started with the daily challenge.
Yes.
Talk about putting it out there. That's what it is. Daily challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I wanted to mention a wonderful movie, a movie that my boyfriend and I like a lot anyway, called Talk to Me, that tells the story of Petey Green, played by Don Cheadle.
Yes.
And it's moving and funny and uplifting, and about being a talk show host, basically. Yeah. And lastly, I wanted to ask, BNN recently folded, I gather, Black News Network.
I think so. I believe I read something that it was gonna. I'm not sure. I don't want to be misquoted, but I think it might be, or it did. Yes.
Okay. And if it did, why do you suppose that is? I mean, that's a hard question if you're not sure that it actually folded. But
well, yes. I'm almost 90% sure that it did. If I recall, we're losing a lot of our Black talk radio shows. We're losing a lot of our Black media, specifically because of, someone said, Arnold Murray said, funding. For lack of support. We don't support our Black owned businesses, but we support things we think are important. Doing the Black news is like giving people medicine. It's good for them, but they don't want it though. You know what I'm saying? They'd rather have some junk food or candy. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you have to understand that. And again, how I said how my faith has been instrumental in this great experiment. That is the only reason I could have survived for 8 years. There have been, and I mean, being transparent, there's been a lot of times I did not know how the paper was going to come out at the end of the month. I'm going to be honest. but the paper comes out every month. My rent gets paid every month. And that's only God, because a lot of our people don't support, don't support it. So it becomes harder and harder to maintain. And I tell everybody, I don't sleep, I just nap, because I don't really have money to pay a whole bunch of people to do things. So I do everything myself. I am the editor, the editorial department. I am the main writer. You know what I mean? I am the marketing department. I am the advertiser. I am the social media department. Like, I just gotta go harder on all those things, because I can't afford to pay a bunch of people to do this stuff because of lack of funding, because people don't see this. They want you around, and they'll give you, they support you with their words and not their wallets. How about that? So, they always say, oh man, you're doing a good job. We need you here. But, that's where it ends. You know what I mean? So people, it's a business. You need money in this. You need money to do anything. So.
How can I get a couple of subscriptions?
Email us at blackwestchester.com. Our subscription for the newspaper is $35 for the year. Just email, you send us a check in your email address, and I will mail you you'll get 12 issues of the newspaper. So that's one way. And we have a button, a donate button. The people that I want to thank everybody out there, and I want to say this too. And that because of God, there are people who believe in what we do. And they come by every now and then and drop off an envelope for me. They don't have anything to advertise, and they just want to drop a few dollars because they want to see me keep going, see us, not me, see Black Westchester keep going. So we've depended a lot on that as well. So I hope I answered your question. And like Don Cheadle's character that he played, I found myself, I don't have as many issues as he does. He had, but like him, I'm not a perfect person. I make my mistakes. I try to own up to the mistakes I make. But one of the scenes is there was a riot breaking out, and they called him back in to calm the people down. Everybody wanted to hear his voice. After this Will Smith and Chris Rock thing, my phone rang, like everybody wanted to know what Black Westchester had to say about that. And we weren't going to cover it because everybody else was doing it, but everyone wanted to know what we had to say about it. Everybody wanted to hear our voice. So that I can relate to that movie a lot. So.
Thank you. Leah.
Hi, thank you, AJ, for talking to us today. I think what you're doing is great. I love your energy so much. Yeah, I just went online to find your online paper, and it looks really great, and I'm going to subscribe. It looks like it's free online, which is amazing.
It's free. It's free. It's a free newspaper. It's distributed everywhere free.
Right.
Because a lot of our information doesn't trickle down to our community. And if I was to even charge 50 cents to $1, a lot of people who needed the information would not be able to afford it, literally. Yeah. So we make it free, and advertisers and sponsors is how we pay for it. So that's another thing.
That's so great. I work for the Poor People's Campaign.
Yes.
And one of the things Reverend Barber is always saying, that we have to change the narrative by changing the narrator. So I think what you're doing is so great, and just keep it up. I was really shocked to hear that you got pulled over with a bunch of Black corrections officers.
Oh, I didn't. They did.
Oh.
I wasn't there when they did it.
Oh, okay.
They got pulled over and they're members of law enforcement, and they got pulled over by law enforcement like they were terrorists or something.
Sad state of affairs. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Good afternoon, Patrick. We'd love for you to come off of mute and then on camera. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Eugene and Lane. I am really interested in this topic. I'd like to get your response as to the whole idea of networking when it comes to Black media. Black media on a whole, not just Black radio or Black press, but Black media on a whole. And that's one. And then secondly, being a person from Jamaica, and living in this country, I have come to realize that we have this insular way of dealing with issues which affect all of us. And this poses a bigger problem for us than it, brings up solutions. I find that when we look at our problems more in an international way, to see that what we encounter here is the same thing we encounter in Jamaica and that we encounter in other parts of the Caribbean, even in the motherland, that when we network, we can get a whole lot more done. Like more can be done in terms of reparations if we deal with it as an international issue. So if I could get your response to that, and particularly about the networking.
I believe it is very important in networking with like-minded allies and other people who do the work. Sometimes, unfortunately, and not always, it's a competition thing. Sometimes our people will not allow us to have two of anything. Let me give you, like, the Westchester County Press has been around 90-something years. When people found out we were going to do a newspaper, do you know what a lot of people and some of the elected officials y'all know said? Oh, y'all gonna take out the county press. No, we're not going to take them out. We stand on their shoulders. Like, we wouldn't be able to do what we do if it wasn't for them. And it was important for us to put that message out there, and then have her on our show to let people see that we work together. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to drive a wedge between us. But far too often, in our history as a whole, they have used us to discredit others of us. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of us sometimes may not be, let's just say, as committed to the cause as I am, and we'll take that dollar and take that money so they don't struggle like we struggle, and do those things. You understand what I'm saying? We've turned down a lot of money. That all money ain't good money. That's the first thing I learned. All money ain't good money. There's some things you sell your soul for some stuff, and we're not willing to. We are free and independent, but with freedom's not free. so you gotta. Some of my financial situations because of the choices I made not to take money from certain people, but I believe that we need to network. I try to do that as often as possible. What usually happens is we get in. It's a good idea. We all get to talking, and everyone doesn't stay committed to it. So I would love to do more of that, and I think it's very necessary for us to actually grow as a whole. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for the question, Patrick. Brother AJ, thank you for the answer there. Jason.
Yeah, first, I just want to say I'm just loving what you're doing, and the heart that it's coming from is, and the integrity with which you do is just so clear. So thank you for that. And I went to your website and I was looking for the donate button, and I can't find a donate button. So I'm just, is there an easy way to just put some money in your pocket?
Email me at blackwestchester.com, and there's different ways. We have PayPal, we have other things. We address you can send a check to, and I can give you all that information.
Okay, I'll send you an email, and I guess I want to
@gmail.com. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I just want to urge anyone else here who feels inspired and moved by what you're doing to similarly do that. I think you have an audience this big. If everybody chips in a little bit, that can make a big difference in you not having to stretch so hard for next month's paper. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see any more hands. What's up? Usually hands are flying. But it is a very a great conversation that we're having. Yeah, there's my dear Adine Usher. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Eugene. And thank you so much, AJ. I have a lot of thoughts. I love what you're doing. I love the passion behind it and the honesty behind it. I lived in Mount Vernon for over 20 years, and I've tried to be very active in the community. Head of the Block Association, involved in the Trap Hagen School, all of those things as our children were growing up. And I was always very, very frustrated with what I considered the lack of integrity on the part of many of the Black politicians in the Mount Vernon community. I knew what I didn't like about some of the white politicians because they were racist, but I also knew what I didn't like about a lot of the Black politicians who were opportunists. And wrong is wrong, no matter what your color. And going back to our inability to support one another, this goes way back to the plantation, where for almost 300 years, you are dependent on your enemy for your survival. And we're not aware of how we still give too much honor to our enemy and not work together to support each other. That's all I wanted to say. And I too shall be supporting your magazine. I'm excited by it.
Thank you very much. You know, like I said, freedom is not free. I made certain decisions not to take some people's money. And some people have learned, though, there have been some elected officials who have taken out big ads and 6 months worth of ads and stuff. And when they did wrong, they got it like everybody else. Like, you know, that doesn't immune. I still got a job to do. I appreciate the support, but you can't buy my support, though.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for me to turn the other cheek, turn my, too many times people, there was an old movie, one of those blaxploitation movies, and it was a follow-up on it. The guy was coming out on the block. He was talking to one of the other activists. He said, yo, where all the brothers in the struggle? They all got government jobs. So you know what I'm saying? That's how they give us jobs, they buy us off, and then we start fighting for things. That's you know, right. I turned down jobs from the county and from the city because the jobs were meant to silence their biggest critic, right. Not, you know what I mean? And I identified that. Now I could afford it. I could have very much used one of those $100,000 and something jobs. You know what I'm saying? It could change my you know, my economical situation right now. But you know, all money is not good money. And you know, and like I said, it's a struggle that you make. But my faith, again, I talk about that a lot in the book. My faith has a lot to do with it. Like, people ask me, am I scared to do what we do? Well, I feel no man can do nothing against that God doesn't allow. And if he does allow it, he'll be in the lion's den with me like Daniel and the fiery furnace like the 3 Hebrew boys and see me through it. Like, I walk in ridiculous faith. You know what I mean? So like, I move, I don't know how the paper's coming out at the end of the month, but you know what? I get it together like it is, like I know it's coming out, and it comes out. Like, I'm serious. And I know that sounds crazy to some people who don't believe things, but literally that is how we have moved, and me specifically, my life. So
wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adine. Jane?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Woodson. I hope this isn't naive, but you talked about how other people in the Black media it's starting to go away because it's not being supported.
Yes.
I guess I don't understand why that's really happening. And if you know of other really, really excellent papers like yours around the country, I'm in Michigan, and because I'll be subscribing, by the way, to get some truth here. But
I have a list of African-American newspapers. If you email me, blackwestchester@gmail, I will look it up, and you tell me where you are. I will look up and see what newspapers are closest to you, and I will send the information to you. And that's another thing. Someone's talking about networking. We need to support each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a competition thing. Like, I can't support you. Like, I'm gonna fail if I support you. Like, we need to support each other. So I have no problem promoting other people who do what they do. So I will definitely give you a list if you email me.
Thank you.
No problem.
Needing
So
to
while our other, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Eugene.
needing to get back to the concept of cooperation and not competition.
Okay.
Indeed. I was just going to say, while we're waiting for other people to get their questions together, because I know there are some, you have first of all, you offer so much information in your magazine. Like, it's so much information. It's like something for everybody. So I want to find out, there's a couple of things. One, why do you feel it's important to offer so much information to your subscribers? And then the other one thing is, you have a section called Under the Radar. What is that?
So Under the Radar, when I used to write for the Source magazine, I used to write for the Under the Radar section. Under radar, in that term, as far as music, is the artist who's been doing work for years, but they never blew up, you know what I'm saying, to the household names, but they have been doing it for a while. So it would be the same as saying the unsung heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like those who have been putting in work in our community for years, and you know, they don't get the media attention for it. They don't get celebrated for the work that they do. That would be that section. I have a few sections that I started and that I haven't, you know, fully filled them in, because again, it's just me. I've had a broad perspective of everything I wanted us to do, but sometimes have to focus on just a few things. And, you know, I had people.
Well,
go ahead. I had people that were.
I want to highlight the fact that you've got sections on Black family, Black finance, religion and spirituality, right? Which you're not going to find. I mean, those three areas in and themselves are extremely, extremely unique. But you also have senior living and travel and health and wellness and technology, right? There's so much stuff. And of course, we're all human beings. Everybody wants this information. How do you have that prepared from the Black perspective, from the perspective of, here is stuff that is for the Black community, and it fits, it's a lifestyle, and it's for us?
Well, one, I want to say thank you to all of our contributors. We have several contributors who believe in what we do, and were like, I would love to write an article for your, you know, for your site. And some of those ideas come from that. Damon Jones has turned into a vegan, my partner. We started this together, we're co-owners together. He's a publisher, I'm the editor-in-chief. He's turned into a vegan lifestyle and a wellness coach. And he really took over the health and wellness section. That is true to his heart. So we've been building that section up as much. Some of the other things, senior living, which is something I never really got a chance to do. Senior living, the idea was from dealing and taking care of my mother while she was in the hospital and those rehabs and all of that, and seeing that no matter how invested I was in there every day, things still, the ball still got dropped in certain cases. But for those who are not there engaged every day, some of their relatives are just being ignored. And just to uplift that and things to look for from my experience, I haven't had a chance to fully, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because now it's back in my head. I want to get back, because I'm 56. A lot of my friends and cousins and relatives, our parents are either, I just lost both my parents. My father died in September, but our parents are in these facilities. Our parents are going through all Alzheimer's and dementia and cancer, getting chemo and all this other stuff. And a lot of us are left to now take care of them, take them back and forth to the doctor, actually be the caregiver. You know what I'm saying? So I want to do more on that. And it's from my personal experience. So we it's you have to give people, you have to meet people where they are. I can give you a rap example. I don't know if some of the other people are not rap fans. The reason a group like Public Enemy was such a big thing, if it was just Chuck D, the main rapper, just giving you nothing but knowledge and all of this and educating you, the group would have never been successful. Right. But you also needed Flavor Flav to be the clown prince or the clown. You know, their DJ was very good. Their dancers gave you the visual of like FOI, you know, the dancers and the formation and all of that stuff. And soldiers, like, and then they had loud sirens and stuff. It was all of that that drew you into Public Enemy. And then you got some of those nuggets that Chuck D was trying to give you. So I guess if I can explain it, however I can bring people in, hopefully some of the information we're trying to give them, they'll get some of that information too. And the same thing when I did Spiritual Minded, which was a Christian hip hop site, I did some secular things to bring some people in. And then, you know, everybody's not going to come in and get, you know, a spiritual word or inspiration. But if you bring them in other ways, sometimes some of that, they might happen on that accidentally a little bit, you know what I mean? And, you know, there's more than one way to reach people. So that was my thinking. Understand we make this up as we go along because there was no blueprint for us when we got started. So, you know.
Well, it certainly doesn't match any news media site that I've ever been to. It is very eclectic. It is packed with information and support for other voices. And so I just wanted to let people know that that's what they're going to find and to honor that and to say, you know, bravo. And you have become quite a force in this area, quite a voice. And we're pleased to be supporting with you, and we're pleased to be collaborating with you. So just thanks again.
Yes, and also thank you to, I guess, one of your listeners who just sent in a donation and said, thank you, Mr. Woodson, for what you do. So your voice matters. So I wanted to, and someone else just sent in a donation. So I want to acknowledge and thank you, and please feel free to keep it coming. But yes, thank you.
Good going. Thank you. Michelle Brown.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Hey, AJ. So good to see
Hey,
you.
Michelle. How are you?
Here. I am so good. You know, I don't really have a question. I just, you know, observation and just a point I wanted to make that, you know, AJ is an advocate, and it's just that we've had a lot of fires that go on, and he stopped what he had to, whatever he was doing. He guided us. He supported us. He gave us forum, a place to have conversation. He wrote about it in the newspaper. I mean, he enlightened us. I mean, he is definitely someone that should be supported because the voice, as Wayne was saying, is vast knowledge that he's giving us. It's a great resource. Like from digital to health and wellness, with the politics, and you know, and it's local, and it's about our people, and it's not, you know, it's uninterrupted. I want to say it's live, right? He as it's happening, like he's reporting it, and he's, you know, inclusive, and he's I don't know. I'm not trying to toot your horn, AJ. You know, I'm really not. He's just a great person. He is the person that should be doing what this is. And I say that to say I just met him, you know, last year. I didn't know him and he didn't know me, but the commonality was our people and advocacy. And he just, you know, is definitely will support us and uplift us, and 2 a.m, you know, about to get locked up, you know, because we're not going to go rally. And he's writing it in the paper, and he's, you know, telling us how to handle it. And, you know, he's right there on the ground with us. So I say that to say, you know, and he doesn't charge us, right? He puts things in, he does each one, he doesn't charge us, it's all free. And so, yeah, you know, anytime we can support that voice, because when it's gone, right, what are you gonna do? But I just want to say thank you, AJ, sincerely, right? Because of you, the dial on the needle had moved so swiftly for a lot of residents in Greenberg with housing, A lot of politicians have been exposed and been held accountable. And I just want to say, you know what? Thank you so much. And I'm not gonna say keep up the good work because that's kind of corny, but keep up the good work.
Right.
I appreciate that, and you kind of never get tired of hearing that because you don't hear it enough. Most of the things I hear are things criticizing us. It's funny, we're not Black enough for some people, we're too Black for others, we're too radical for others. We don't criticize others enough. So that's what we hear mostly. And it's statements like this that definitely keep me going. A lot of times, and I will say this, there were several times I had quit and was ready to give up, especially during COVID. Probably 12 times during COVID. But it was always someone that I did something for, or that we helped them, pointed them in the right direction, or the young man we helped to get out who's wrongfully incarcerated, putting on Facebook, it was the anniversary when he was finally released and exonerated, and it was because of us. It's those things that, like the fire under me, that keep me going and keep me inspired. So I want to thank you, Michelle, for that, and I greatly appreciate it. And I want to say hello to Nicole Woodson, my sister, who is watching from Northern Virginia. So I saw her, she said hi in the comment section, so I definitely wanted to acknowledge her.
Great. Thanks. And, Michelle, I heard you say, I don't want to I'm not tooting your horn, but here's the thing, right? As AJ mentioned, we need to hear that, so I think we want to start to toot, each other's horns, to appreciate what we are doing. And it's okay to toot our own horn. It really is. It really is, because that inspires not only us, but the people around us. And when we, say, keep up the good work to people, well, that's what they're inspired to do. So let's toot each other's horns. Absolutely.
I would like to say one thing real briefly to Michelle. Michelle, we need more people like that. Like, people call us to fight their battle. She was there fighting. All I had to do was amplify what she was doing and put assistance to what she was doing. There was a situation, they were going to protest, and they were told if they showed up, they would be arrested. All right, she had her lawyer ready at the police department at the time of the thing, and she was going to do it anyway. And I was going to cover it, and there was some other people, it was like one of the ladies was on a walker. I was going to show the video of them arresting some older ladies on walk, like they backed out at the last minute and let them have their protest. But it's the fact that she was willing to do the work, and all I had to do was shine a light on it, and it helped their situation. And I sometimes get tired of fighting for people who won't fight for themselves, not who can, but who won't. Right. Because there have been too many times when the rocks come back, I'm looking around and I'm the only one getting hit, and I was fighting for you. You know what I'm saying? So those who won't fight for themselves. So I just wanted to highlight, I got involved. That's how we got involved. I just started shining a light on what they were doing, and helping their situation and bringing it to more people's attention, and their local officials and stuff. So I will always do that.
Great. Jason, great idea in the chat.
I was just reading that as well.
Seja.
Hi, AJ. You just mentioned a phrase that kind of rang a bell with me, and that is the phrase about being too Black or not Black enough. And I may be hearing this in a different context, but I've been at a couple of events where there were numerous, in this case, Black people with different levels of lightness and darkness. And a darker skinned person made a very broad or spoken statement that the lighter skinned person had no right to speak because they weren't as Black as they were. And that really landed painfully for me, but I wasn't in a position of interrupting the speaker who was saying that because it was a public speaking event. Do you have any way that, what can be said or should nothing be said?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer. What I will say is, as an effect from slavery, where they divided us, and they keep changing the rules. There's always a division between us. Yes, there was that thing between light and dark. You know, there have been certain other things. In rap, it was the East Coast rappers and the West Coast rap. Like there is always a division. They tried to divide us, and we fall victim to that all the time. And we are more critical of our own people, and we tear down our own people sometimes more than anybody else do. And this is something that we try to speak on, encouraging people and uplifting the people and trying to get us out of that mind state. I mean, we've been fed this, and every time we try to get above it, they change the rules to keep us, you know, and they change the topic, but it's still us against us. You know, you have Black people in the community against the cops, even the Black cops. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Damon K. Jones is a 32-year-old correction officer in Westchester. He gets profiled when he's driving his car, and he's not in his uniform as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, we have these, we're our own worst enemy, and we need to get away from that. And there is no one answer. I'm glad that you know, you can feel that you were able to identify that, and it resonated with you. I appreciate that. That's what I can say about that. But I don't have an answer to your question 100% though.
Due to the logistics, it was best for me to be quiet. I felt I was the last person they wanted to hear from in that conversations, but it hurt.
No, and I appreciate that, and we need people to speak up. We say when you see a Black cop do a bad cop do something, the good cops need to speak up. I encourage all of our white audience that are here, when you see the people in your circles making certain comments, certain kind of jokes, certain kind of judgments, I'm not in that circle. Sometimes you have to speak to them and be like, yo, that's not right. You're not going to do that in front of me. You know what I mean? And I know some of y'all do, but that's what we need y'all to do in those circles, to have those conversations. Take what you feel back to those circles. I guess that would be the best thing I can say that you could do for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say to everybody who is subscribing, who is donating, because a few other people, make sure, please email me that you made a donation and send me your email address, and I just send you a subscription. I want to show my appreciation. I mean, we appreciate the support, but I want to, you know, still give you a subscription so you can get the paper mailed to you. So make sure you email me as well to blackwestchester@gmail.com, your name and your mailing address, and you know, I gave a donation, whatever, and I will start mailing you the paper. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, so no need to be sorry. That was great. That was great. We're going to have this be the last question. Tina and her lovely partner, Al.
Hi. Yeah. No. I apologize. I had a business meeting and came to this fairly late, but I'm going to come back and definitely view the tape. But I was just so inspired, even in the short time I've been listening, because the newspaper business is kind of near to my heart. It's my family business. My dad was in the newspapers, but we are so starved for independent journalism, you know, locally and across the country. You know, you're feeling such a great need for all of us of any color. And, you know, even the local newspapers are basically primarily owned by national chains who come in and gut the editorial staff and maybe have one or two part-timers covering local news. So thank you for doing this. And apologize if you've covered this already, but I'd also be interested in hearing any inspiration you take, because you know there's a great history of Black journalism in New York and other cities. I think the Pittsburgh Courier.
Yes.
Yeah, and a number of other papers, many of which are not in business anymore, but I'm just curious to hear if you take any inspiration from those.
Yes, I did cover that, but I will gladly speak on it again. I stand on the shoulders of all those papers and media outlets who came before me, and Black radio talk show hosts like Gary Bird. I stand on their shoulders because without them, I wouldn't exist. And I study them, and I see the fights that they were fighting against the Civil War, they were fighting against segregation, they were fighting whatever the thing was at the issues of their time. And I know that I have the responsibility to educate and do the same for what we're going for this moment in time. So yes, I very much stand on their shoulders, and yes, and I try to educate and keep their names alive. Like I do articles about the importance of the Black press, and I list the names, and so people will know, so they continue to exist and their legacies continue to exist, as I hope I'll inspire someone to do about me for 100 years from now. So you know what I mean. So and it's about education. I just want to say what they're doing with our school systems and the excuse my expression, the whitewashing of history. The lack of teaching Black history in schools is not just detrimental to Black people, it's detrimental to everyone, because everyone does not know the history and the rich history and the accomplishments. And some of that is in the systematic racism and the implicit bias. Even those who don't think that they're prejudiced and they have the implicit bias, is from the lack of knowing the history. And we should know the history. And of course, I'm advocating for the Black history, which is American history, but we should know the history of the indigenous people. We should know the history of the Latino. We should know history of the Chinese that was building the railroad. We should know this because we collectively all make up this country. Right. And for some reason, there's an erasing of that history. They don't want to, act like slavery didn't exist and all these other things didn't happen. And I think it does a just service not only to those groups of people, but to everyone as a whole. So I think my responsibility is to keep talking and keep putting it out there and keep celebrating these things, so.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Brother AJ, and thank you for all of you who raised your hands and asked questions and had great comments. I'm going to hand this over to Lane for right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And, just love this community, right? Look at you guys, right? Making donations online and stuff. And we have I'm just so proud I'm overcome. And just thank you for being who you are, all of us coming together every week to have these loving, inclusive conversations, these courageous conversations about these issues that are so important to all of us. AJ, I want to ask you before I talk about what's happening next week, really quickly, what's the most important thing for us to take away from your presence today? And do you have a call to action for us?
Well, one of the calls to action, like I said, to our white, non-Black listeners, if you feel this conversation, it's up to you to take it back to your community, and share that. It's up to you to chastise those and let those other people know, other people in your circle know that's not okay to do. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes being quiet, give the person talking, give them permission to continue to do it, to think that it's okay. You know what I'm saying? But if it bothers you, then you should speak on it. That will be one call to action. We, to my brothers and sisters, we have to support our businesses. This is always a big thing. See, we talk about economical power. We talk about power. We talk about one of those ways is, you with every dollar you spend, you vote for a world that you want to be, what you want to see. So if you want to see more Black businesses and more diversity, then you have to find those businesses and you have to spend that money. You know what I'm saying? Spend your money there, as opposed to the big, a lot of the big chains are knocking out the small guy, the mom and pop stores and stuff. How many hardware stores and everything that Home Depot and them knock out, like that don't exist no more. You know what I mean? And plumbers and stuff. So we have to support our businesses. And that is one way to then you're empowering the businesses. We're recycling our dollars in our community. This is just as important. Also, I want to say, there's an attack on voters' rights. And even if it's not in your area, I don't care what you're fighting for, and not just Black people, because I told women this before, I told everybody before, if they come for the Black vote, they're coming for everything. They're trying to overturn Wade versus Roe.
Roe versus Wade, right?
Roe versus Wade. I'm sorry. It's not just this country was run by white men. They fear the browning of America. Look at the 2014 midterms. You had a lot of people, a lot of firsts, Muslims, first indigenous person. Now you got first trans. In Westchester, we had our first openly gay Black congressman. This is a problem because they're in the city of Yonkers, you now have 2 Latinas and 2 Black women sitting on the city court. And out of the 7 city council people, you have 4 women of color. They're the majority running the Yonkers City Council, including the first African American council president and the council majority leader. You know what I mean? So like, this scares people that want to hold on. When they say make America great, they want to go back to that time when it was just them that controlled. And that includes women, because women, Black and white, didn't have the rights to do a lot of things, vote and other stuff. They want to go back to that time. So we have to, no matter what it is you're fighting for, the right to vote is the most important thing, because it allows us to vote for people who will stop these things from being taken away and for us to move forward. Without the right to vote, we won't have people who represent us, and we will lose all of these things. So I think that one of the things, pay attention when the census comes out. It's very important. Pay attention to the redistricting like we just had. There's a lot of things we have to pay attention to, because politics is a participatory sport. We have to stop voting, go to sleep for 4 years, and then waking back up and voting again. We have to participate. You have to go to your city council meeting, your school board meeting. People talk about their schools all the time. Half of them ain't never been to a school board meeting. Express that, hold them accountable. That's your right to do that. These things happen in your community. Sometimes I say you're the problem because you're not fighting for it. So, you know, we have to get the people. The power is in the people. We need the people to step up. So I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about this. It could go on forever. So
That's okay, but I can't let you because it's now 1:31 and we have to sign off. But that's okay. But we'll have you back, and you know,
Absolutely.
please come around, please, because we need your voice and we need your encouragement. And thank you so much for the love you've given us today. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, AJ Woodson and Black Westchester Magazine. Please join us next Wednesday for another inclusive, courageous conversation about race. Our speaker will be cultural intelligence strategist and corporate DEI consultant, Dr. Amy Narishkin, who will teach us how to create sustainable, diverse relationships. If you have topics or speakers that we would like us to feature, please contact us at info@racetalkrevolution.com, because here on Race Talk Revolution with Lane and Eugene, your voice matters. Eugene.
Your voice matters. Again, everybody, thank you so very much. As Lane said, we love you so very much, and how you continue to show up and show up big. And so let's toot each other's horns. Let's continue to lift each other up, and let's continue to shine. Peace and blessings.
All right, everybody. Take care. Have a great week. We'll see you.